Hey 4xe fans, I want to welcome you to this video. I want to give you a heads up ahead of time. I'm going to talk about an oil dilution issue I recently had. There's going to be a lot of jargon in this video that I'm not going to explain the backstory to. So if this is like the first video of mine you've ever watched, it's going to be a lot of stuff that might not make any sense, but I'm just going to blow through this. I've tried to shoot this video like 4 times over the past couple weeks, and every time my short attention span just will not let me get through it because of explaining all the sidecar stuff that goes along with this. So I wanted to share a recent oil dilution issue that I had, and I want to explain what happened and what I discovered and a theory that I have behind it. So if you've been around the 4xe community, you might have heard of FORM, fuel oil refresh mode. It's I'm not going to go into everything that it does. The third step in FORM is an oil dilution issue, and that is completely determined by programming. The software figures out by the way that you're driving, the temperature outside, all sorts of factors as to whether or not you might possibly have an oil dilution going on. And if you aren't familiar with oil dilution, it's when gas gets in the oil. It's because of a direct injection engine. Again, I'm not going to go into all these back things because it gets me off gets me off on all these little tangents. So I recently, I'm a big proponent. FORM is part of the system because it needs to be there, but I'm also a big proponent for driving the 4xe in a way that avoids the issues that leads to oil dilution / FORM, if at all possible, because it's just better for the vehicle. And one of the ways that you can do that is to be very binary with how you drive the vehicle. Drive it in a lot of electric mode, or if the engine starts, drive it and put some miles on it with the gas engine running. So I pulled my dipstick, and I've only had FORM once since I own this thing. I picked it up 3/31 of 21, so I'm a month and a half, almost 2 months shy of owning this thing for 2 years. I've only had FORM once, and it was for like 24, 48 hours, and it was probably a legit scenario, but it was also cold weather related. And my Jeep, when it gets cold, it actually goes into electric mode unavailable, like it's supposed to. I know a lot of 4xe's just go into FORM, and I don't know why some do, some don't. That there's a lot of variables, but I'm not going into that in this video. But I have driven mine in a way that I've tried to be very cognizant of using electric a lot, and if the gas engine runs, no short engine runs, that kind of thing. So I haven't had an issue with getting into FORM, being stuck in FORM, perpetual repetitive FORM, or anything like that. One day I pulled my dipstick. I was about 5,500 miles past my last oil change, and I pulled my dipstick and I noticed the level was high. So I cleaned the dipstick off, put it back in, checked it again, and I went through the proper procedure that Jeep explains in the manual of waiting 5 minutes, being level surface, all that kind of stuff. And I checked it again, oil level was high. So I was like, I'm 5,500 miles, and I know we can go to 10,000 miles, and the clock, the percentage, oil percentage on screen 2, wherever it was like 62%. So I had plenty of oil life left, nowhere near my 10,000 miles like the manual says, but yet my oil was high and it smelled like gas. And I thought, I've got an issue. I've got an oil dilution issue, maybe, possibly. 5,500 miles, let's go ahead and get an oil change. So I ordered, before I did that, I ordered a kit from undermyhood.com. This is not a sponsored video. It's just where I got it. Got it on Amazon, and it just comes with a little bottle that when we did the oil change, took an oil sample, mailed it off to them, and they send the results back. Turns out my viscosity, now most everything showed normal on the oil report, but my viscosity was at a 6.6. Now I'm completely ignorant. I'm going to speak into something that I'm completely ignorant about, and I'm going to admit it up front. So if you know more about this, please comment down below. My understanding about the 5W30 synthetic that is in the Wrangler 4xe is it should be between 10 and 12 on the viscosity rating, and I was at a 6.6. So my viscosity was low. One thing you don't want to do is run an engine with viscosity that is too low, because then you're not getting the protection that the manufacturer has intended for that vehicle, and that could cause early wear and tear on the gas engine. So I did the right thing by getting an oil change and by getting that sample done, but I wanted to share that experience with other 4xe owners. It's probably important to go, especially during the winter when oil dilution is more of an issue. It's probably a good idea to go ahead and check your oil every once in a while and look at, one of the telltale signs is to look at the oil level. My level was as high, if you take the distance from the low mark to the full mark, and then you add that above the full mark, that's how high my oil level was, and that's what got my attention. Now, it didn't look terribly dark, it didn't look disgusting or anything, it looked okay. I mean, it gets a little darker as it ages and as it works in the engine and everything, but it wasn't horrible, it wasn't nasty looking, it didn't feel nasty or anything like that. But when I got those test results back and it said that it was indeed diluted, I was really glad that I went ahead and got that oil change. Now, here's the part that is a little bit of a theory of mine, and it's just speculative. This is from talking to some other 4xe people that are in the 4xe fans group that are, kind of geeks like me. We kind of go over this stuff. We kind of geek over it and try to figure it out. And one of my personal theories is that the way I drive my Jeep, the way I'm very binary with it, I had actually avoided the software thinking I had oil dilution, but I actually had a little bit of oil dilution. Now, I don't think that's horrible. I don't think a 6.6 is horrible. I don't know that for sure. Somebody will have to speak into that is more intelligent about oil viscosities than me. But I would think I wouldn't at that point want to go ahead and keep going to 10,000 miles because of the potential for added wear and tear on the engine. So, bottom line, check your oil. Probably more during the winter, but check your oil. I mean, that's something we should do anyway. I mean, a lot of us with modern vehicles, we tend to kind of not get under the hood a whole lot, but it's probably not a bad idea every 3 or 4 fill-ups, or however you want to do it, once a month or something. Just pull that dipstick, do the check the way the manual says to check it, especially, and see what's going on there. Now, I will say, after I got the oil change, I checked the oil level and it was spot on perfect, maybe just a millimeter high, but it was right where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to check it a little later on in this, in this cycle between oil changes. I'm getting about 2,000 miles away from my next oil change that I'm just going to go ahead and do to stay on the every 10,000 mile oil change thing. I'm at 38,000 miles, and I did that one about 5,500. So I'm going to go ahead and change it at 40,000 miles, since that'll be kind of near the end of the cold season here in Southwest Ohio, and we'll be getting into hopefully more spring weather by then. So there it is, that bottom line. Check your oil. It's just a good idea to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's not low, but make sure it's not high, and make sure you don't have a possible dilution issue. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Take care.